Ladies and gentlemen, I am finally back. It's been a while since my last video, and in today's video, we are going to go over my way too early Broncos award predictions. This is going to be the comeback player of the year, the Broncos MVP. Well, all of these are for the Broncos. This isn't going to be for the entire league. This is just within the Broncos organization, including the team MVP, defensive player of the year, offensive player of the year, etc., etc. Make sure you drop a like and subscribe to the channel, as the support is greatly appreciated. I'm trying to hit 500 subscribers as soon as possible. We're getting fairly close, so if you could help me reach the goal, that would mean the absolute world to me. Now, first off, here is a little bit of where I've been. I haven't uploaded within a month. It's been a while, and that is because I am officially a college graduate. So I was going through graduation, going through all that stuff. So that's why I haven't been uploading. And, I've just been taking a little bit of time off, but I am back. I have some videos that I'm planning coming out, not only of the Broncos, but you guys know that football and hockey are my two favorite sports. So we're going to be talking Broncos. We're going to be talking Avs in some upcoming videos. So yeah, subscribe if you are interested in that. And as always, I do want to remind you that Jesus is King. I pray that you give your life to him. He's got a plan and a purpose for you. And I just truly hope that you accept Jesus with your whole heart and believe that he died on the cross for your sins. And if you truly believe that, then you'll go to heaven. It's that simple. It's that easy. It's not by our works that we go to heaven. It's by grace through faith in Jesus, because he lived the perfect life and died on the cross for our sins. That is why we get to go to heaven. It's not by our own works, but it is through Jesus, and it's an important message to me. That's why I share it at the beginning of every video. A lot of people may not like it, but quite frankly, I don't care. I have a platform, a small platform, but still I'm going to do everything in my power to share the gospel with as many people so that they can be saved potentially. And with that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump in to the most improved player. So, for me, the most improved player is going to be Damarri Mathis, cornerback out of Pittsburgh. Now, there were two options. Actually, I would say three options for me at this spot. Of course, Damarri Mathis, who you see here. Greg Dulcich, of course, the second-year tight end out of UCLA, who missed a couple games due to injuries, and I do expect him to be a big part of Sean Payton's offense. And then, of course, Nick Benito, our first pick last year, which was the 64th overall pick in the 2022 NFL draft. But I chose Damarri Mathis because he is going to have to step up into a big role as that number 2 cornerback. Quite frankly, we all saw his debut. He gave up those 4 DPIs. Now, I will say, I would agree with about 2 of them, but I think 2 of them were pretty bogus, if I had to say so. But Damarri Mathis he's shown a lot of promise. It's hard when we've passed on a guy like Tariq Woolen, but I do like Damarri Mathis and his upside to be that number 2 cornerback behind Pat Surtain, because yeah, he's going to have to be locking down the number 2 receivers. Of course, Pat Surtain, if we just look in division, he's going to be locking down JaVonte Adams. He's going to be going after probably Mike Williams. All these offensive weapons in the AFC, there's going to need to be a guy to guard those number 2 receivers, and Damarri Mathis needs to step up and prove himself, and I believe he can. So that is why Damarri Mathis is going to be my prediction for the most improved player on the Broncos. You can see his stats last year: 16 games, 65 tackles, 7 passes defended, no interceptions. I do expect that to change this year. He is going to have to step up to that number 2 cornerback role, like I said, and I believe in him. I've got a lot of faith in Damarri Mathis. He was one of my top corners coming out of the draft last year. I was super pumped when we got him. And, of course, we had Ronald Darby before he got injured, but now is his time. He's going to go into the season as the number 2 corner, and he's going to be able to prove himself as one of the better corners in the league, but one of the better number 2 cornerbacks in the league, I should say. Next up for comeback player of the year, I feel like this one is fairly obvious. I mean, it could go between two players. Of course, Russell Wilson, who had that bad season, and I could absolutely see him winning comeback player of the year for the Broncos. But to me, I'm going with JaVonte Williams because he went down after 4 games, right? And I do believe that a big portion of this Broncos offense is going to run through JaVonte Williams. He breaks tackles, he sets up the run game, and by breaking those tackles, by breaking off those big runs, that is going to open up the pass game for Russell Wilson in Sean Payton's offense. So I think JaVonte Williams is going to come back with a vengeance. Of course, you can see his stats from his rookie year. Those aren't his stats from last year, of course, only playing in 4 games. But in 17 games, he had 203 rushing attempts for 903 yards, 4.4 yards per attempt, and 4 touchdowns. And that's, of course, with him sharing carries with Melvin Gordon. Now, he will be sharing carries with Samaje Perine, but I do expect JaVonte Williams to be the true workhorse back for the Broncos and the offense to run through him. I expect Samaje Perine maybe to come in during pass situations. Of course, not always, but I do expect him to be more of that back in the passing game. But yeah, I do expect JaVonte Williams to be a big part of this Broncos offense, helping to open up the passing game for Russell Wilson. Next up, we have Offensive Rookie of the Year. Once again, I do feel like this is a fairly obvious pick. Well, quite frankly, because there's no other competition. You look at the only other offensive player we drafted, and that's Alex Forsyth, the center out of Oregon. And then you look at all the undrafted free agents, and, there's some guards, there's some tackles, there's some offensive linemen, but the only other competition would really be the running backs, and if one of them makes the team, they will be buried behind JaVonte Williams, Samaje Perine. Maybe they'll get that number 3 spot, maybe they'll get the number 4 spot, maybe they'll be on the practice squad. So pretty much by process of elimination, I do expect it to be Marvin Mims. But to talk about Marvin Mims for a little bit, he is going to be a pure slot receiver. Now, will he be the Broncos starting slot receiver this year? I don't necessarily know, because there is a lot of talent in this wide receiver room. Of course, you guys know my favorite player is Jeudy. I do not expect us to trade him, especially with us picking up his 5th-year option. I do expect him to get extended at the end of the season. So I expect him to be here. I expect Tim Patrick to be here. There's also guys like Courtland Sutton. So we'll see what happens with him with the trade rumors. KJ Hamler, who Marvin Mims could be KJ's replacement. We'll have to look at him. We signed Marquez Callaway, Little Jordan Humphrey. There's Montrell Washington still on the squad. So there is a lot of receiver talent. So how many snaps he will get in the offense as a rookie, I don't know. I think Sean Payton really likes him. Obviously, that's why they traded up to get him. So we'll see. We'll see if they try and feature him in the offense, and maybe he'll get a lot of touches. And it'll be, of course. But, just by process of elimination, it's fairly obvious that Marvin Mims will be the Offensive Rookie of the Year for the Broncos. But I have some hope in Marvin Mims. He's also probably going to be working in the punt and kick returns game. I think it'll be a competition between him and Montrell Washington, who I hope we keep Montrell Washington, by the way, because with all the receivers we signed, it's not looking good. But I still have faith and belief in Montrell Washington to be on this team. But we'll have to see what Sean Payton thinks. And then you can see Marvin Mims' stats during his time in college. 37 games played, 123 receptions, 2,398 yards, 19.5 average, and 20 touchdowns. And I want to put this narrative to bed that Marvin Mims was the number 1 wide receiver on the Oklahoma team. There's been a lot of people who said he wasn't, and quite frankly, I have a lot of friends who are OU fans. They said Marvin Mims was their number 1 receiver. And when I did my tape study, he was also the number 1 receiver. Sure, he did play in the slot, but to me, he's still their number 1 receiver. So I just wanted to kind of put that rumor to bed. Next up, the Defensive Rookie of the Year, and I am going with Drew Sanders. Now, this one was a little bit tougher because you see all the guys that we drafted. Of course, Drew Sanders was our 2nd pick in the draft at 67 overall. We also traded up for Riley Moss and picked up J.L. Skinner, and there's some guys who we signed as undrafted free agents who I really like, Art Green being one of them. P.J. Mustipher out of Penn State being another, but Drew Sanders to me has a chance to be a starting linebacker. Of course, we got Josie Jewell and Alex Singleton, tackling machines, not the most athletic. Drew Sanders is so athletic. Now, a lot of people have said, oh, Drew Sanders, he is going to play edge rusher. Yes, he has the ability to play edge rusher and inside linebacker, but Sean Payton said after day 2 of the draft that he plans to use him as an inside linebacker. So I'm taking it directly from the source. He plans to use him as an inside linebacker. Now, of course, things can change, but he is most likely going to play inside linebacker because, he wasn't the greatest at Alabama. He transferred, switched to inside linebacker, and that is what made him a top prospect. A lot of people had him going in the first round. He fell to the 3rd round to the Broncos, and I think he's going to have a lot of production. Maybe needs to improve, or not maybe, but does need to improve in the coverage aspect. But, if you need him to go stop the run, if you need him to go rush the passer from the inside linebacker spot, he can do both. I think this is a fantastic pickup for the Broncos. So that is why he is going to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. And then some reasons why Riley Moss, I don't think, will win. Just because you look at the depth chart of corners, Pat Surtain, like I mentioned earlier, Damarri Mathis, who's going to step up as that cornerback 2 role. You got K'Wan Williams in the slot for this season. And then I'd say probably Riley Moss would be cornerback number 4 behind those 3. So, I mean, he would most likely still see the field, in spread formations when 4 wide receivers are on the field, but I don't think he'll get as much playing time as Drew Sanders, and that's why I think Drew Sanders will be the clear Defensive Rookie of the Year for the Broncos. You can see the stats on the screen if you are interested from his stats during college. Now, let's jump on to the Defensive Player of the Year, Justin Simmons. There's been a lot of people in the Broncos kind of YouTube circle who, are just so negative, and I can't stand those negative Nancys, quite frankly. I don't know. There's something about, I get criticizing, but just being so negative, like why? Like, why? You can criticize them, but I just don't understand it. Calling Justin Simmons, a lot of people calling to bench him, like, what? Justin Simmons is one of the best safeties in the league. He's a ball hawking safety. He's going to obviously, go and try and intercept the pass, maybe struggles in coverage a little bit. Did he have a down season last year? Absolutely. Absolutely. I think Justin Simmons had a down season last year, but it was still a very solid season. And, you look at the awards that he's gone to. He's been to 1 Pro Bowl, but I really don't count the Pro Bowl as an award because it's a popularity contest at the end of the day. It's a popularity contest. Everyone's guilty of it. We vote for our favorite players to make the Pro Bowl, just so it's fun for us fans to watch and have some representation from our team. But at the end of the day, it is a popularity contest. But he is a 3-time second-team All-Pro safety. When you consider that, there's a lot of safeties in the league, and what he made second-team All-Pro, that is still very, very solid. It shows you how well Justin Simmons played. So that is kind of bogus. He does win Defensive Player of the Year because, well, we'll get to someone else later. I'm sure you can guess who I'm alluding to, but there's the stats during Justin Simmons' career as a Bronco, so I do predict him to be our Defensive Player of the Year. Offensive Player of the Year, Jerry Jeudy. Now, am I biased? 100%. Jerry Jeudy is my favorite player on the team, but with the steps that Jerry Jeudy has taken, hasn't really played with solid quarterback play. His rookie year, it was Drew Lock, who, I just want to say this about Drew Lock. He obviously went 4-1 down the stretch of 2019. Then we drafted Jerry Jeudy. Week 1, I think, of the 2020 season, Lock looked fine. And then, I don't know, when he got hurt against the Steelers, I think that's when it changed and something happened. But that's just my theory. But then, the next season, Teddy Bridgewater was his quarterback. Then this past season, Russell Wilson was the quarterback, but didn't play super well. So Jerry Jeudy still hasn't had great quarterback play, but has still been super effective. I mean, you look at last season, he almost had 1,000 receiving yards. He had over 1,000 scrimmage yards and 6 touchdowns last season, by far his best. Jerry Jeudy is one of those elite separators in this game. He has a fantastic route tree. He just needs to obviously be thrown to more because he has one of the best separation percentages and one of the best target separation percentages in all of football. He just needs to be thrown the football to. I mean, we saw how dominant Jerry Jeudy can be. We look at that one game against the Chiefs as an example of how dominant he can be. He was so wide open. Of course, you look at the second touchdown. That's he did that against a rookie, Trent McDuffie, which, you know, kind of blew coverage. So, you know, take that for what you will. But he just was open and open and open. That's why he got those 3 touchdowns. And so Jerry Jeudy is my favorite player. I expect him to have a huge leap forward and be the Broncos Offensive Player of the Year. I expect him to have a big season, and at the end of the season, I expect the Broncos to offer Jerry Jeudy a big contract to stick around in Denver. Also, one sec, I kind of forgot to mention I went over why Riley Moss probably won't be the Defensive Rookie of the Year. Let me go over just J.O. Skinner real quick, and it's really the same reason of Riley Moss. It's just you look at the safeties with Justin Simmons, Caden Stearns, Kareem Jackson, Delaren Turner-Yell, who we drafted last year, P.J. Locke, and J.L. Skinner. Just a lot of competition at safety, so I don't know how many snaps he will be getting as a rookie. So I just wanted to throw that in there because I did forget to mention that. And as for MVP, it's going to be the best player on the Broncos in Pat Surtain II. You know, coming out of Alabama in that 2021 draft, you know, I thought Pat Surtain was the best corner. I know a lot of people had J.C. Horn above him. Surtain was still my #1 corner, and he's just absolutely locked down a majority of the receivers that he's faced in the league. You know, you look at his rookie year, shutting down Jamar Chase. You know, game 1 last year against the Raiders, he shut down JaVonte Adams. Struggled a little bit in game 2. And by the way, that final play was not on Pat Surtain for those opposing fans calling it his fault. It's a zone coverage. So that's, you know, someone wasn't covering their zone. It wasn't Surtain's fault. I can't remember who the safety was who was supposed to be covering deep, but I just want to throw that out there. And then, you know, of course, you know, he's just one of those elite corners. He's a lockdown player of the league. He's a top 5 corner. You know, as a Broncos fan, I'm going to say he's the best corner. Going to get a lot of arguments from other fans, and that's fine. If you're a fan of another team and you think your cornerback's better, that's fine. Pat Surtain, in my opinion, is the best corner in the league, and I expect him to be shutting down all the primary targets for all the teams. You know, when we face the Raiders, I expect him to be guarding Davante Adams. When we face the Chargers, I expect him to be guarding Mike Williams. You know, Chargers have got a lot of receivers, so it's going to be important for our cornerbacks to cover Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Quentin Johnston, who they drafted. So, yeah, I expect that. As for the Chiefs, I can't remember who their starting receivers are, if I'm quite honest. I know they drafted Rashee Rice. I'm sure they signed some guys that I'm just blanking on because I'm filming this at 2 in the morning. But Surtain is going to lock down the primary target. And yeah, so he is going to be one-on-one most likely with the top targets. So Surtain, he's going to win MVP. You know, I don't think he's going to get very many interceptions because I don't think he's going to get thrown at a lot. We saw that a ton last season where Pat Surtain was just locking down receivers in coverage that quarterbacks just wouldn't even throw his way. You know, they would throw his way sometimes, but, you know, a majority of the time, I'd say about 85, 90% of the time during the snaps that Pat Surtain was on the field, the quarterback would look away and just would not throw over to Pat Surtain. So I expect another season like that, and I expect Pat Surtain to be the Broncos team MVP. But those are my thoughts. Those are my opinions on the Broncos way too early award predictions. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel down below, as the support is greatly appreciated. My name is Parker, and I will see you in the next video. Peace out.